Hey, what's up guys, my name is Manga Artist and... Jesus, I'm just really shocked. There it is. Would you look at that? 5,000 subscribers. It was 2015 when I made this channel and I began with shittily heavily referenced almost traced art. I made those really shitty anime reviews. I made my first good commentary a good few months ago. And now here I am, with 5,000 people subscribed to this channel. And just like I promised to celebrate this amazing milestone, this video is going to be a sequel to the best video I ever made, Things I Love. It's going to be roughly the same format, but I got rid of some segments and added new ones, and I will not be mentioning anything I praised in the last video. So this video will be completely filled with new things that hopefully you will have the inspiration to watch, play, or listen to once this video is done. This video was a long time in the making, and this will probably be my magnum opus for a long time to come. So let's start it off just like last time, with my favorite movies. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I saw this film on a lot of top 10 fight scenes videos, and many say it's up there as having some of the best fight choreography in film history. And after watching the movie, yeah, I completely agree. This shit is pure eye candy. This is like a choreographer's wet dream. Every jab, punch, jump, and clash of weapons was all beautifully planned out, and it looked like it could have fucked up at any moment because the fights were either using strings or that the clashes were really fucking fast. And as someone who did a course on stage combat a few months ago, it just makes me appreciate the fights far more. The fight between Michelle and Zhang is one of the most near flawless fights I've ever had the pleasure of watching. Yes, there are some fights that completely defy the laws of physics and some feel like the characters are fighting on the moon, but I don't really care because the choreography more than made up for it. But aside from the orgasmic fight scenes, the rest of the film was pretty fun to watch. I enjoyed the story and the lore of the legendary sword, I like the characters, especially Yuju Lane, and this film is gorgeously shot with lovely Chinese scenery and very detailed set designs. You will want to watch this just for the fight scenes, but the movie as a whole is a very solid watch. Sin City. I've never really been a fan of movies that depicted street life. I find those kind of films dull and just overall kinda cringy. And after hearing all the praise Sin City received ever since it came out, I decided to let my biases go and give the movie a fair chance. After watching the movie, Sin City did something that I didn't expect it to. That being, I fell in love with characters I never thought I'd like. Girl who turns into a hooker? Liked her. Brainless brute whose only motivation was to avenge the person who gave him a particularly good one-night stand? Found him very interesting. An assassin who primarily targets women who are in trouble? Made me want to know more about him. Disheveled police officer who wants to see the one person who loved him again? Ended up becoming my favorite character. Sin City has this massive advantage of telling multiple stories as opposed to just one and still get a lot of enjoyment out of it. The way some of the stories intertwined with each other was a really good idea, showing that city life is very busy and small, so the fact that some plot points hit the same destinations really brought this dreadful city to life. And I know a lot of people have said this about the movie, but the style of this film is gorgeous. I adored the black and white film effect most of the movie had and how important plot points were shown using color, making attentive people see connections in all the stories and just how much it made some characters stand out. There are some shots that if done in color would not look impressive at all, but thanks to this style, Sin City was able to make some moments way more powerful by simply changing the color palette. Sin City also boasts characters that have understandable motivations and make you root for them despite them being low-life garbage, action that makes you want to look away because of the brutal and sadistic nature, and fantastic writing that ties these stories in a handsome little bow. If you haven't seen this film, I would definitely recommend checking it out, not only for its beautiful effects, but stories that you will not forget, even after not seeing the film for many years.
Stepped out of my zone. I had to get out alone and figure it out on my own. And I know what.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I remember seeing the trailers for this film, and to be completely honest, I wasn't really interested in it. Sure, the cinematography and animation was gorgeous, but I just thought that that would be the only good part of the movie, not to mention that it was made by the same company who made this just last year, so I was like, But once the movie came out, my Twitter feed was just exploding with people praising this film as if it was the next Pixar film, so I was curious. Then after talking with a friend and hearing him praise the film for a solid 30 minutes, I eventually said, fuck it, let's watch it together. And dear fucking lord, I was not ready for what I was about to experience for the next hour and a half. This film was the first movie I've ever watched that from the very beginning to the very end, I just felt joy. Pure and simple joy. What makes Spider-Verse my favorite out of all the other films is that it truly embraces the fact that it's a Spider-Man movie. The backstories are there, the inner monologue is there, the baddie is there, everything is right here. And the thing that made it so fun to watch was the self-awareness. The self-awareness led to plenty of funny interactions and so many references that made even me, a guy who was never the biggest fan of Spider-Man, go, well, hey, that's kinda cool. And need I mention that this movie is really, really funny? Because it is. Not only was the writing filled with quips and amazing one-liners, but all the characters, and I mean all the characters, were beautifully written and all work off each other brilliantly, and the animation has so many hilarious details which I'll get to later. But back to well-written characters. First, Miles Morales is a near perfect main character. He has his own personality, he's very street smart despite his father being a cop, he's eager to learn, and he's extremely good with words. Already a new rendition of Spider-Man that I really enjoyed. His character arc, while being a little rushed towards the end, is mostly well-deserved, and he's at his best when he's interacting with other characters. Every other Spider-Person is extremely likable too. Each one has that one trope that defines them, but that's what makes them great. They work at their best when they're, like Miles, interacting with each other, which leads to many of my favorite moments from the film. But my favorite out of all of them was easily Peter B. Parker. He's pretty much the Deadpool of this film, and he just kills it. He's been doing this shtick for so long, he knows all the ropes, and he is just so hilarious.
With great power comes
Don't
great...
you dare finish that sentence. Don't do it. I'm sick of it. You have money, right? I'm not very liquid right now. That is what they always say. But there's always a little bit of time before everybody dies, and that's when I do my best work. Find the head scientist computer.
That lady with the bike is the head scientist. I saw her in this documentary at school.
Cool. Step 3. I re-examine my personal bias. And it's a no on the cape.
I think it's cool.
Take that off. It's disrespectful. Spider-Man doesn't wear a cape. Watch this. He's gonna say, "You've got 24 hours."
You've got 24 hours.
What this means is there could be...
We did not deserve this character. Also, the voice acting is out of this world. Every single voice suits every character perfectly, and everyone gives incredibly witty and emotional performances, especially Miles and his dad. Their conversations are so perfect it hurts. By the way, can Nicolas Cage just become a voice actor? He unironically has so much talent when he's performing behind a mic. And above everything else, this movie is a work of art. This animation. Holy shit. The 12 frames a second animation was a little jarring at first, but once my eyes got used to it, I fell in love with it almost instantly. The comic outline of the characters is incredible, the expressions have so much life in them, each character's personality radiates in their subtle movements, the colors and lighting are gorgeous, the addition of animating the sound effects was hilarious, the scenes where it turns into a comic format was fucking awesome, and the fight scenes are like a massive fever dream with so much stuff happening at once, but you can still see everything clearly. That last fight scene will go down in history as one of the most extraordinary animation sequences ever put to film. Spider-Verse was a movie that blew my expectations out of the water, and the fact that it was Sony who made this film after making this in 2017 is extremely commendable. Talk about very deserved character development. Avengers Infinity War. So here's something that might blow your mind. When I watched Infinity War for the first time, I actually came out of the theater not liking it that much. The movie didn't leave any impression on me, and I was left slightly disappointed. That was until I got into a Discord call with the same friend who loves Spider-Verse, and we began talking about the movie after he watched it. 2 minutes turned into 30 minutes, 30 minutes turned into an hour, and eventually we ended up talking for about 3 hours about a movie that I originally thought I didn't like. But then when I looked back at it, I came to the sudden realization that there were so many moments in this movie that I fucking loved. My guess for the lackluster first impression is that there was just so much that happened in Infinity War that I didn't have much time to really absorb everything that I liked into my mind. That, and I didn't see Thor Ragnarok before seeing this movie, and yeah, that didn't help watching the opening one bit. But now that I've done all that, I can definitely say that Marvel's 10-year celebration and the final reveal of Thanos could not have been any better than it was. First, Thanos himself. This is how you write a villain. His actions are fucked up, but the way he talks about his actions make you see why he does it. He's completely convinced that what he's doing will better the world, and I believe that that motivation alone was what made me love him. But that's not all. Thanos was a villain that could have very easily been portrayed as this tyrant who lusts for the destruction of the universe, but that wasn't how he was written. He respects and is impressed by his opponents. He is shown to love Gamora, making her death all the more heartbreaking. He's shown that he doesn't want other planets to suffer like his did, but for them to thrive and survive. Top all that with Josh Brolin's flawless performance as the character, and it makes Infinity War basically Thanos' movie, which I'm not against in the slightest. But Thanos obviously wasn't the only thing I liked about this movie, because there's plenty of other things that I fucking loved. The action was massive and was beautifully shot, really giving the war part of the title the credit it deserved. Characters that I've grown to love are all giving fantastic performances, especially Tom Holland for that one scene alone. God damn, that scene was good. I actually felt genuine emotion for characters I originally didn't give a shit about, like Wanda, Vision, and Thor, who surprised me the most considering his movies were the ones I disliked the most. The special effects were gorgeous with Thanos easily looking the best, and the pacing of the story was mostly really good with just some small hiccups. While Avengers Endgame made the story of the Avengers come to a very bittersweet but satisfying conclusion, I feel like Infinity War was the film that truly made me realize how much I actually loved the Marvel Universe, and it's that makes me top it over Endgame. I'm so glad I had that talk, because damn, this film was so much more than I gave it credit for. Just, holy shit. Logan. Wolverine has and always will be my favorite Marvel character, ever. His stories, his life, and especially his powers, Wolverine was always the one character I could never get enough of. In terms of movies where he's the main star, I have a mostly positive reaction to his films. X-Men Origins Wolverine, while being an objectively bad movie, is still a film I find quite entertaining in its campiness and hilariously bad moments. His next solo film, The Wolverine, while being a million times better than Origins, was still not the Wolverine movie I was hoping it to be. Mind you, I still enjoyed it and it had nice action and character moments, but to me it was just kind of dull, and the violence was not as brutal as it should have been. Logan was the Wolverine movie I didn't even realize I wanted, and after the movie was over, I was left in tears and completely lost for words. Everything about this movie was just breathtaking. The cinematography was incredible in its composition, with brilliant camera angles and shots that really immerse you into this post-apocalyptic setting. The makeup was out of this world, with every scratch, burn, scar, and gash looking so lifelike that just looking at them made my skin crawl. The practical effects were phenomenal, and the CGI was sometimes so good it tricked me into believing that it was actually real. Especially the moment with Donald's metal arm, I was properly convinced that that was actually there. The acting was superb, with Hugh Jackman showing us a side to Logan that is flat out Oscar worthy, and Patrick Stewart turned Professor X into one of my favorite characters because of how sympathetic and heartwarming his acting was in this film. But as much as I loved those parts of the film, what made me love this movie so much was just how violent it was. Every single slash, every single stab, every single gunshot, the violence in this movie was so brutal and disgusting to watch. Something that violence should be. But I feel like this level of violence was what Logan needed, not only to finally have Wolverine be the animal he was in the other movies, but it perfectly showed who Wolverine is as a character. He's violent, he's easily annoyed, he wants to protect people by staying away from them, but they keep coming back to him to try to help. Everything that I just said can be seen in this movie, and it's just heartbreaking to finally see how tragic Logan's life is after all this time. This was not a superhero movie. This was a movie that shows the aftermath of a war-torn character having been through so much shit in his life, the damage that's been done both mentally and physically finally taking its toll, and he just so happens to have claws made out of a fantasy metal. The best superhero movies are the ones that don't try to be superhero movies, and Logan is the perfect example of what I'm on about. Hugh Jackman had a fantastic run, and I don't feel like there's any way anybody can replace him, so I give infinite props to Hugh Jackman for making this character so special, and performing him one last time in a movie that was this perfect. Logan. Something that I would truly call a modern masterpiece. Everybody loves a good TV show, and I'm not hipster enough to disagree. Here are 5 more shows that really stuck with me. One Punch Man. This is how you make a great parody. Not only was the anime funny, but it has so much heart in between. Firstly, Saitama is surprisingly a very well written character. You understand what he's going through, and his overpowered nature is surprisingly quite tragic when in other animes that shit's glorified. He's the result of what happens when a person finally ascends to godlike power, and that power isn't fun after a while. It subverts the usual expectations of this concept, and it's a core factor to Saitama's character, which I love. Saitama is also quite likable. Yes, he's bored for a majority of the show, but under that expressionless mask, he's a character that has a very good heart and is willing to take shit so other heroes can be seen as equal as him, knowing full well what the consequences of his actions will be, but he does it with very little hesitation, which ironically makes him the greatest hero out of them all, and it's got nothing to do with his godly punch. He's great stuff all around. But despite him literally stealing the show, the rest of the cast are very interesting too. Everyone has a backstory, whether funny or actually really deep, their abilities are well established and very cool to watch, and they all have great personalities which work off each other amazingly. And on top of all this, One Punch Man can actually get very emotional when it wants to, and the best part is, they never feel out of place and it leads to some really great moments. If you didn't get emotional at that moment in episode 9, you're a fucking monster. To those who have watched the show, you know exactly which moment I'm talking about. And of course, I must mention this, the presentation is heavenly. These fight scenes are some of the most energetic, blood-pumping, weighty, intense, and beautifully planned out scenes I have ever seen in my life. I can't even pick which one is the best because they're all done so well. Watching these in 4K is pure eye candy. While the second season isn't really as good as the first in my opinion, this show is still rock solid and is a very good example of a show balancing comedy and heart perfectly. Ghost Stories. The dub, obviously, fuck the sub. I only discovered that this anime was famous only last year or so, and on top of that, I had no idea why. I then watched some clips from the show and I had the same thought circling through my mind. This is fake. There's no way this could be real. But then I watched it, with a friend of course, I could not watch this alone, and I was blown away. This dub exists, it is real, and it's so fucking funny. The main reason why I like this anime is of course the writing. You can just tell that the writers just didn't give a fuck about being serious and they crammed all the jokes they could think of into each episode. Fourth wall breaks?
Oh my god, what the hell's happening here? These are the fastest lip slaps I've ever had to sink!
Check. Offensive humor?
You can't cancel the festival! One little retarded boy has his heart set on this thing!
Check. Lines that make fun of Japanese anime?
Any nomination?
Hi! Hi, 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 hi.
Check. Characters roasting the absolute shit out of each other?
You know, kids would stop talking about you if you'd get out more. Kinda de-geek yourself.
Geeks run the world!
But they're not getting their pee-pees waxed now, are they? What? Here, you can take Pookie Poo. He used to be my man, but we broke up. Great. Please don't hurt me. Aren't gonna hold him for long.
Lord, reveal your salvation, since I am your favorite among these heathens.
Yo, Sensei, dig! What's haps on the craps with snaps?
Cracker. People went in there, but they didn't come out. Not unlike your sister.
Hey man, let's get off the sisters. Especially since I just got off of yours.
Double check. The writers had way too much fun making this dub, and it has that charm that is just contagious, making me have a constant grin throughout my whole viewing. The show in its simplest form isn't very interesting. I'd go as far to say that this show is below average, and it actually was in Japan until it was dubbed, but because of its hilarious writing, it made the show 10 times better. Execution is key, my dudes. And not to mention that the voice acting was unironically really good. These actors didn't have to try. The show was already going to be a legend the moment it was released. But they did. Every actor actually gave it their all and made every joke land the way it was supposed to, which only enhanced the comedy even more. As much as these characters abused the shit out of each other, in an ironic twist, I definitely felt like these guys were friends. They reminded me of the way I would talk to some friends online, just constant witty banter, which I loved. It just makes the relationships more genuine, you know? This anime is the one that if you're an anime fan, you need to watch just to experience that this dub is real, and if you go into it with the right mindset, I'm sure you'll like it. And if you have some friends or some alcohol, it will only make your viewing 10 times more hilarious. Avatar: The Last Airbender. I was one of the unlucky kids that didn't grow up with this show, and for a portion of my internet life, I saw nothing but great things about it. So I was bored one day and finally gave the show a chance, my expectations set fairly high after all I've heard. And let me tell you, for the next few weeks, I watched this show like a drug addict. The moment it started, I couldn't stop. I was hooked, I was invested, I needed to see how this show ended. Why? Well, for one reason, the characters. Holy shit, these characters are so well written. Every line they say sounds completely in character, almost as if the actors weren't even reading from the script. Everyone has some kind of development and every character feels like they bring something to the group. Aang was such a great portrayal of how a kid would act if he was told he was the new guardian of the entire planet. He always feels like he's under pressure to do his best, and when he fails, he understandably gets very upset about it. He had a massive chance of coming off as irritating, but he didn't. I sympathized with him when he messed up, and I really wanted to see him save the world in time. Truly a great main protagonist. Katara was such a great addition with her strict but loving motherly attitude, her extremely determined spirit, and the fact that she doesn't let the fact she's a woman affect anything she does. She's a very good example of a strong female protagonist, and damn it, I love her. But I'm sorry lads, my heart goes to Sokka. Sokka was the one character that was the most risky out of the group. He had all the possibilities in the world in being the most insufferable comic relief in the entire show, but to my amazement, he is comic relief done to absolute perfection. Because he wasn't just funny. He also had a lot of brains and a lot of courage despite him being the weakest of the group, and that alone is very fun to watch. However, he was always at his best when he was being a massive goofball. I laughed and smiled at all of his jokes, I sympathized with him when he had his downer moments, and he was a character that I believe deserved all the rewards he worked so hard to get. Don't even lie. You were rooting for Sokka in this episode and missed all the scenes without him just like these three did. If you say no, you are lying! But as much as I have a bias towards my boy Sokka, I will let that bias go and say that the most intriguing and the most heartbreaking character of them all was definitely the Fire Prince, Zuko. Everything about Zuko was just fucking tragic. The only person that ever loved him at a young age is gone. He's permanently reminded of his biggest failure with a hideous facial scar. He was always outperformed by his sister. His father was never proud of him. He was so blinded by rage and his honor that he threw away the one person that genuinely loved him and wanted to see him get better. He was working towards a goal that could never be achieved, and even when he does good, his past comes back to haunt him with everyone treating him as an outcast, not even giving him a second chance. All of this and combined with Dante Bosco's lovable, edgy performance, and I went from hating Zuko at the start to feeling painful understanding towards him for the middle and joy towards him at the end. There are so many good characters in the show that if I were to talk about all of them, I would be here forever, but I will say this. You will grow to love every character because all of them go through amazing arcs, wonderful success and failure, and play their role to their story perfectly. The attention to the fight scenes was also really commendable. Not only are the fight scenes beautifully choreographed, but the fact that the animators actually used real martial arts as reference made the attacks far more fun to watch in addition to paying respects to the setting of the story, which is great stuff. And also the art style is so fucking good. Oh my god. I'm quite annoyed at myself that I never watched this show, because now I know that I was seriously missing out on a truly amazing story with extremely well written characters. Easily Nickelodeon's finest work. Hunter x Hunter. This anime was an adventure from beginning to end. The story was not just big, but has so many emotional moments that if I went and listed my favorite here, like Avatar, the video would be way too long. It's a solid narrative from the start and all the way to its conclusion, and the twists and tonal shifts make this anime so worth it to watch, with some moments being downright scary. The world of this anime feels so alive, with the concept of Nen being incredibly fascinating and a wonderful addition to the lore, making Expedition actually very intriguing. But I'll be straight with you, I love the show mainly because of the characters. I've had an absolute blast seeing all of these characters interact and being able to witness them grow on their adventures, both physically and mentally. The most diabolical and disgusting characters this anime showed me surprisingly ended up being some of my favorite parts of the cast, with all of the development and understanding on why everyone acts a certain way. But the three best characters by far, in my opinion, are Gon, Killua, and Leorio. Gon and Killua's friendship has to be one of the most hard-hitting friendships I've ever experienced. Their personalities work amazingly off each other, their teamwork is beyond superb, the times when they train are both excellent at showing how much they've grown and how much tighter the friendship was. And during the show, the most emotional moments are the ones where one of them is concerned for the other's safety. Killua especially, holy shit, some of his moments almost brought me to a teary breakdown, they were so emotional. Also, his relationship with his little sister is just so wholesome and it's too much. Also, Gon is both best boy and goes through the most amazing character arc. You cannot convince me otherwise. He is a shonen protagonist done to absolute perfection. Though Killua is a very close second, I loved him to death when he finally started having some fun. However, my personal favorite character has to go to Leorio, because of just how much he goes through to get his goal done. It's both tragic and incredibly inspiring to watch, with the only flaw being he wasn't in the show enough. Aside from that, no problems at all. And the villains. Holy fuck. These villains are not just terrifying, but are some of the most complex, relatable, and even sympathetic antagonists ever. The fact that this level of complexity is in a fucking shonen anime is just wow. They really didn't hold anything back. They showed you the violence, the fear, and the minds these villains have over the story. It's fantastic stuff. Hunter x Hunter is a show that makes you grow with the characters all the way through, and I believe that's its biggest strength. With a whopping 148 episodes to watch, you will attach to all of them like glue, and it will only be all the harder to let them go. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. This show is fucking perfect. I didn't find any major flaws with it. This show is just so good. The story is fantastic and attention grabbing with so many interesting plot points with phenomenal plot twists that left me on edge after every episode, with the whole story feeling so satisfying. The Philosopher's Stone was easily the most interesting aspect of the story. Never in my life did I imagine a rock being the heart of so much death and evil. It's honestly disturbing and riveting at the same time. The idea of alchemy itself was implemented into this Victorian world perfectly, and all the rules greatly established the strengths and also the weaknesses to this fascinating magic system, making it very fun to watch and very fun to learn. The characters, oh my god, the characters! There isn't a single character that I didn't like or end up having sympathy for, except Tucker, fuck him. Because all of their arcs and motivations were very understandable, and it just makes me want to cheer them on because of how much effort and work they're putting into achieving their goals, with some falling short and makes the show fucking tragic. But like Hunter x Hunter, the main characters are without a doubt my favorite of the cast. Ed and Al have seen it all. They've seen their mother die in front of them. They've seen their father leave without looking back. They discovered what happens when you decide to play God and bring someone back to life firsthand with serious consequences. But despite all of that, their determination of getting their bodies back, no matter how many people telling them that's impossible without a Philosopher's Stone, is awe-inspiring, and their moral compass perfectly resembles that of a teenager who's seen it all. They went through hell and back to get what they want, and I was with them every step of the journey. But the most iconic part of Full Metal Alchemist to me was the overall theme of irony. Irony comes in many forms in this show, like the bigger brother being the kinder of the two, the villain using alchemy despite his religion despising the concept, and even the villains dying in ways that completely contradict their deadly sin, which leads to a lot of my expectations being subverted in the right way, and that overbearing theme makes this anime such a blast to watch. Combine all of this greatness with memorable side characters that become instantly likable and very solid and flowing animation with a beautiful desaturated color scheme, and you have an anime that I thought was the perfect length and the greatest show I've watched so far. I'd put this on the same level that I put Death Note on in my last video. That's how much I loved it. If you haven't seen this show yet, please do. I'm sure you won't regret it. Video games have been getting a lot more love as of recent, and there are some games that make even the biggest blockbuster movie look like child's play in terms of storytelling. Here are 5 more games that I've played and loved from the bottom of my heart. Paladog. I think I know the one question everybody has on their mind right now, that being, what the fuck is Paladog? Well, dear viewer, I'ma tell ya. Paladog is a free-to-play war strategy game where you play as a dog on a horse and protect Critterland from zombies that have spawned out of hell. Look, just hear me out. Okay, let me just go out of my way and say that this game was way better than it has any right to be. From the way this game looks and plays, you'd honestly think that you should have spent money to play it, so the fact that it's free just makes me really respect the developers and wish more people would get to experience it. But enough of that, let's get to the good stuff. First, fucking look at this game! This is definitely one of the most creative, silly, cartoony art styles I have ever seen. Paladog is a very nice looking character with a beautiful standout design. The backgrounds have this simple and popping color to them. The enemies are extremely vast and different in their designs. Man, just everything in this game looks so lively. Even the limited animations of every creature has this cute charm to it. Go Rhino! Smack him with your stubby arms! One of the main reasons I love Paladog is simply that strategy really does matter. You can't just spawn the strongest warriors you have and expect to win. You need to spawn archers, wizards, warriors, know when to use your attacks for the most damage, find out which weapon is the best for certain opponents, what to level up, who to upgrade, which items to sell and which items to keep, what strategy takes down each boss. It's all these little things that I had to keep in mind that made me get really invested in the game's mechanics, and it led to so many hours of pure addictive fun. When I failed a level, instead of rage quitting, I kept going, okay, I fucked up something. What do I need to do to win? And I always tried a new strategy and kept changing it to best suit me, which leads to just so much satisfaction when I finally beat the level and move on. Sure, some parts of the game were all down to luck, some levels were completely insufferable, and the story is a cool concept but it's never really expanded upon, but all in all, I really enjoyed myself. If you're looking for a game that's silly and wacky in its style and just want to feel like a dictator, I would suggest giving Peladog a try. I'll leave a link where you can play the game in the description, so if you're interested, give it a shot. I put over 12 hours into this game and I do not regret it one bit. Hyrule Warriors. I believe the best way I can describe my experience with Hyrule Warriors is the same feeling you get when you see someone you don't like get smacked in the face. Fucking cathartic. I never played any Dynasty Warrior games, hell even any Zelda games before playing this one, so I came into Hyrule Warriors with little to almost no expectations. Not only was the game a joy to play from beginning to end, but it also made me really value a player too. What exactly do I mean? I played pretty much the entire game with one of my best friends and we would spend hours hacking down enemies, giving each other orders on what to do, what keeps to capture, who kills the boss, everything that makes a good team. I swear, sometimes I didn't even have to say anything and my friend would know what to do, that's how much we played it. And once the bastard left, I was quick to realize that I couldn't just beat the game by mindlessly hacking down enemies, which was my main strategy. If anything, the game actually punishes you if you don't stay to the objective, and I've had plenty of times where I failed a mission because I got way too trigger happy. And that's what made me love it. Like Peladog, it made me have to use strategy, it made me actually think about what I was doing, which got me all the more immersed into the levels of this game. And the combat is so fucking good. Every character has a unique moveset, the combos are easy but satisfying to pull off, the bosses are challenging and require you to use your items to do any kind of significant damage. The special moves are a spectacle to behold and you just feel like a tank when you slaughter hundreds of enemies with a single strike, which might be what makes Dynasty Warriors a famous franchise, and I love it. Not to mention that this game looks fucking incredible. The colors are beautifully vibrant and easy on the eyes, level designs are simple and easy to locate, backgrounds look amazing, textures all look perfect, and the design of all the cast look gorgeous and pay respects to the original looks while also making them look different, and further proves my headcanon that scarves make everything look cooler. This game is a game that keeps on giving, and there's always more content to play once you beat the story. I'm only a 10th done with adventure mode, and I haven't had a dull moment so far. Cuphead. I'm sure that when you were young, you grew up watching at least one cartoon that was made during the early 30s to the late 40s era of animation. It's a style of animation that has embedded itself into the world of pop culture and it has aged like the finest of wine. A style of animation that MDHR Studios used for a game that took them close to 7 years to produce. If you have no idea what the backstory was to produce this game, I would highly recommend you do some research because it is very interesting and a very cool insight to what indie development can be like. And it also makes you feel extremely glad that this game sold extremely well. So because the game's biggest appeal is its look, I'll first talk about the presentation. This game's art style just oozes with passion. Every slide of animation is silky smooth with the addition of doing almost every animation at 60 frames a second, which enhanced the experience tenfold. Every move a character makes is super expressive and exaggerated, much like the cartoons from long ago. The film filter that's permanently in the game never once distracted me and became one thing I adored because it fills me with so much nostalgia, not to mention the sound is so nice on my ears. Every watercolored background was a beautiful contrast to the characters and did a great job at not distracting you from the gameplay, and every single design from Cuphead to the Devil were all beautifully weird and were just pure eye candy. The decision to make almost everything in this game be hand-drawn gave this game so much more life, just like the cartoons from around that time period, and it really does feel like you're playing a 30s cartoon. And the soundtrack, just whew. I was never really a fan of jazz music because I never understood the appeal, but while I played this game, I dug the jazz almost instantaneously. There isn't a single dull track, and it made all the boss battles so much fun to experience. In addition, the decision to make the sounds you would hear from the enemies in Cuphead himself sound like stuff you would hear at a casino was an incredibly nice touch. This game is so charming! But what made me really love Cuphead was the gameplay. This game is brutal, but in the right way. Cuphead did not hold my hand throughout my playthrough, but I never once had the feeling that the game was being ruthless for no reason. In fact, it was quite the opposite. The game encourages you to get better. It lets you find out which weapons best suit the boss you're trying to beat, because spoiler alert, the spreader and the charge shot isn't going to make all the bosses easier to beat. Oh don't know. It makes you think about which items to get and not just blindly buy one that sounds nice. And when you fight a boss, the game implements this incredible just one more try mentality. This game never once encourages you to give up. It's always saying to you, come on man, you can do better, give it another shot. Or, you were so close man, you can't give up now, you were right there. Yes, there will be times where a boss seems impossible and you can never imagine yourself beating it, but you're always getting better, and most of the time, you're not even aware of it until you beat the boss. And to top all that off, the game is hardly ever unfair. Nearly every death was because I fucked up, and Cuphead nearly always felt like it was giving me an honest challenge rather than being complete bullshit. And that's what made playing Cuphead so fantastic. It's a game that rewards determination and punishes doubt. It rewards using strategy and skill and punishes cheating. It praises your success and encourages you to get back up when you fail. Factors that should be a trend in very hard games. This game may be no cakewalk, I still haven't beaten it, but if you give it your all, the game is going to have your back. And if you keep playing, you're only going to get better. Dust and Elysian Tale. One guy. The models, the world, the characters, the story, the cutscenes, the levels. All of this by one guy. I could just stop there as that is already a massive achievement, but to top it all off, the game is fucking amazing. If I was to tell anyone on how to write a compelling story with characters you actually get to know and care about and provide all that with near flawless execution, Dust and Elysian Tale is exactly what I would be talking about. The game starts off with you slaughtering a village with the models being just black silhouettes, only for it to fade to black and have you wake with the killer you played as wake up with all his memories lost. Already, I was intrigued, a sign that I was going to enjoy my playthrough. And once I completed the game 8 hours later, I was left with that empty but satisfying feeling. That feeling you get when you watch the final episode of a TV show you really liked. The feeling of being sad that the journey is over, but the happiness in knowing you got to experience a marvel of storytelling all the way through. Dust's story is a roller coaster ride of emotions, with each plot point in his journey being delivered with near flawless execution, making Dust feel emotions like guilt, failure, success, trust, doubt, and most of all, understanding who he really is. Now I'm sure you could apply this to any main character with amnesia, but the thing that made Dust stick out to me was just his attitude. I saw him truly appreciate the people who trust him and help him during his quest. I could hear the regret and anger in his voice whenever he fails and messes up. I could feel the sheer weight of responsibility he has taking back the world resting on his shoulders, which made me feel good about being the person that guided him through the narrative. And also the fact that he can crack a few jokes here and there not being a complete stick in the mud is also a nice trait. Bit of an unpopular opinion incoming, but I really liked Fidget. I don't know what it was about her, but she just really grew on me during my playthrough with her fiery but cowardly personality, her supports towards Dust while also making fun of him, and being the most reasonable and at the same time, stupidest of the bunch. She was just everything that makes a good sidekick, and the voice, while not being something I'm used to, is still pretty cute and she has a lot of funny moments. And just look at this fucking game. Bathe in the fact that one guy was able to draw all these characters and give them unique looks, design all the levels and make the backgrounds and foreground look like something out of a high-budget anime, and color every environment with colors that are so lovely to look at and easy on the eyes. One guy did this! How? However, the main thing that made me truly love Dust was that the gameplay was so much fucking fun. Dust controls beautifully, he has tons of abilities that are all fun to use, the game forces you to use strategy and not just go in guns blazing, the combat is super quick, chaotic, and blood pumping, which made me feel like a force of nature, and the boss battles were the right difficulty and were very challenging. While the game did the whole sequel bait bullshit at the end, this was an amazing story with a great first, second, and third act, and I will definitely recommend this game to anyone who loves some great fantasy. Truly one of the best indie games I've ever played. Ori and the Blind Forest. This piece of video game art deserves to be played by everyone. Never has a game been able to make me feel so peaceful, sad, and happy the moment I picked it up. Ori throughout the whole game has this beautiful magic to its world. The game truly sucks you into its world thanks to the visuals that make you truly feel like this forest is alive with all the small sounds and even some animations playing in the foreground. Something I didn't even notice was there until I saw some creatures moving right in front of me. That's how invested I was in this game. The platforming in Ori and the Blind Forest is flawless. Ori has this beautiful floatiness to his jump that makes it very easy for you to cross long distances in a short amount of time, and his ability and speed is the perfect balance, making the platforming precise and very rewarding. The abilities you gain throughout the entire game are very well implemented to the stages, and some sections will really test your skill to the absolute limit, resulting in some segments of this game being very blood-pumpingly intense. Don't let the cute exterior of this game fool you. Ori is a very challenging game and can be brutal, but it never once felt unfair. Like Cuphead, every death was my fault, and it was up to me whether I learned from it or not. This game may not be as hard as Cuphead, but it's certainly a game that you need to play with some level of alertness. And holy fucking shit, this soundtrack. If you're a fan of peaceful piano music, you will instantly fall in love with this game. Every track from the opening to the end feels like it was made from the heart, and it does an amazing job at messing with your emotions, and it can do it in almost a heartbeat. This was one of the only games that made me cry. Yeah, I'll admit it. And if you played this game, you did too! I'm not the kind of person that would say a game is completely flawless nowadays, as, well, you know, that's literally impossible to achieve. But I gotta tell you, Ori was really fucking close. I feel like I betrayed this game by only paying half the money, but when the sequel eventually comes out, I'm going to give it every penny it rightfully deserves. Blue Studios hit an absolute goldmine, and I thank them for giving me, and the world, this artistic masterpiece of a game. Unfortunately, this slide will be rather short, because I honestly only read 2 books since the last video, but I can safely say that these 2 books are still worth mentioning because I loved reading both of them for completely different reasons. Green Angel by Alice Hoffman. I had the pleasure of reading this book alongside a friend who sent me a copy of the novel because she thought it would be a book that I would really enjoy. That and combined, I read a really shit book right before this one, so it was like, you owe me, bitch. The book took us between 2 to 3 hours to read all the way through, and after a lot of dramatic narration and a very sore throat, I was very pleasantly surprised at how good this book turned out to be. This book, in my opinion, was just the perfect length. Everything that happened in the book went by at a very smooth pace, with no scene being too fast or too slow, and every scene welded together like a fine quilt. What I think was easily the best part of the book was how the characters responded to the tragedy. We have characters who over time transform into someone that's unrecognizable and grow extremely thick skins, while others devolve into their most primal instincts and survive off the power of booze and parties, trying to forget or even escape the harsh reality that surrounds them day by day. It tells the story of how different people react to tragedy, and it portrays every character brilliantly and made me sympathize with everyone despite how low some of them go in this story. Green's story was amazingly written. The moment the book opens up, I was immediately invested in this character's story. Every action she does in the plot is done with a reason, and never feels like she's doing shit just for the lols. From speaking with a friend I read the book with, she stated that this book actually did a great job of representing depression, and after she explained herself, I completely agree. I even brought up how well it showed the 5 stages of grief, and it surprisingly fit very well in the story. Green was a character that had so many potential to be annoying or flat out unlikable. There's a lot of paragraphs and even pages where Green goes on depression-filled rants which could have ended up being unneeded, but it actually ended up making me like Green more. It made me truly understand the pain and loss she was going through, and her transformation was very believable despite never seeing myself do something like that. But what made Green so well written was that despite her being so welled up in her justified depression, she becomes an incredibly strong character. She walks journeys that pain her, but she just keeps going. She starts applying for herself and people that she doesn't have any emotional connection to, and it just made me want to see her get better and grow all the more. This book was a complete emotional roller coaster, and with a wonderful start and a brilliant end, it was a novel that really made my evening. Give it a read if you find it. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Harlan Ellison. This story is the textbook definition of, well, I'm not going to sleep tonight. The world in this story felt like the characters were living in an eternal technological hell. The characters in this world the antagonist created cannot die. They go through events that would kill a normal person in an instant, but the characters keep on surviving, much to their dismay. Even going as far as to make nearly all the characters go mad from their own immortality because of the hunger and cancer that slowly consumes them. This already would have been plenty of material to tell a disturbing and depressing tale, but what made this story so scary and hopeless was the antagonist. This fucking character will forever haunt my nightmares. Not only did the book do a phenomenal job at showing how much power this villain has over our heroes, but the motivation as to why it keeps these heroes alive is what makes this villain pure nightmare fuel. There is a paragraph that explains its entire motivation, and it's one of the most haunting pieces of literature I've ever read. However, this book would not have left such a big impact on me if it wasn't for the writing. This writing is incredible. It gave me so much material to imagine what the world would look like, getting me even more invested in the fates of all these characters, and some of the imagery it creates is extremely fucked up. But the reason why the writing was so phenomenal to me was just how it was written. This book reads a lot like a diary entry, with each entry being fueled with emotion, and each emotion felt so real when I read it. It was like I was stepping into the mind of someone on the verge of insanity, someone who's refusing to snap even though he knows it would be the better way out. The only thing that's keeping him intact is his anger for not only the world and the villain, but even his fellow comrades. This burning hatred radiates throughout the entire story, and god damn it, it was amazing to experience. If you're a fan of sci-fi horror, this book is a must-read. Not only was the psychological horror near perfect in its execution, but you will never look at the word hate in the same light ever again. And what if I told you that this book is a very short read? This book in a PDF format is only 13 pages long. I've left a link in the description if you want to check it out, but if you can't be asked to read the novel, I've left another link that will lead you to an audiobook that is still on YouTube, where the narrator only makes this book 10 times scarier because of his amazing narration. I don't care how you experience this story, but please, for all that is good, give this book a shot. It won a Hugo Award for a reason. Because I had such a hard time trying to find mainstream musicians that I can confidently say that I love, I decided to go back to YouTube and tell you my 5 favorite music YouTubers who have made one of my favorite hobbies all the more enjoyable. Starting off with The Fat Rat. This artist's music is the musical embodiment of epic. And I use this word in the unironic sense. Why has the internet destroyed this word? It was so good. Every song sounds massive in scale, almost like it's a soundtrack for a giant sci-fi epic, and a lot of his songs contain the best instrumentals, beats, and beat drops I've ever heard, using all kinds of instruments and techniques to make melodies and tempos that make his music a marvel to experience. It makes me feel all kinds of emotion, and damn it, I love it. And whenever he gets Laura Braham to sing some vocals, she enhances the songs tenfold with her incredible singing voice. Seriously, her range is not something to be scoffed at. The songs that I think encapsulate Rat's best attributes would be Xenogenesis, Monody, Unity, and The Calling. Also check out this cover of Undertale's infamous song Megalovania, because in my opinion, it makes the original sound dry in comparison with the addition of Rat's Unity instrumental. Adrian von Ziegler. If I mispronounce his last name, I'm so sorry. I have always had a soft spot for Celtic music, and it's the one genre that just resonates with me. Maybe it's because I'm Irish, or the flute is a godly instrument? I don't know. And if I ever want some peaceful Celtic music to play in the background, Adrian's music is absolutely perfect. Every track this man composes is like he made it solely to make you feel emotional, and on many occasions I've ended up a little teary-eyed after listening to a bunch of his songs, because they were just that good. The guitar, the flutes, the choir, the drums, everything has this angelic tone that makes Celtic music so famous, and it's great to listen to when you want to have your heartstrings tugged or just want to have a very good daydream. Which is what I use his music for, if I'm being honest. Adrian has serious talent, and I will always have massive respect for him making amazing Celtic music even to this very day, and keeping the genre alive in the best way possible. 3 songs that I think you should check out are Wolfblood, Prophecy, and Ode to the Fallen. The last song virtually drips sadness, and it's all around his best song, in my opinion. Ose. Are you a fan of techno/trap music that has deep messages and make you feel emotional while you listen to it? Well, dear viewer, allow me to direct you to Ose's channel. This lad knows the ins and outs of techno and trap, and he creates some absolutely banging tunes, with some songs having beats that are very uplifting, depressing, and sometimes just great background music, making him easily the most well-rounded of the artists on this list, in addition to having some amazing beat drops. However, the one problem I have with Ose's music is that I can't really explain why I adore his music in great detail, because he's one of those people that you have to listen to rather than have someone like me me explain why you should listen to him. But what I can say is that OC deserves all the subs he has now and will earn in the future, and I really look forward to hearing his music every day he uploads. So my 3 recommendations will be Down, Far Cry, and Everything Will Fade. Once you listen to one of this guy's songs, you'll only want to hear more. Jonathan Young. The best way I can describe what listening to Jonathan's music is like is the feeling of hearing someone give it their all. Jonathan's voice may not be the best I've ever heard, but the amount of energy he puts into his songs is fucking contagious. His bass voice is orgasmic to hear, his pronunciation of vowels make the songs sound way more grand, and when he hits those high notes I always get smacked with waves upon waves of goosebumps. That's how excellent his voice is. Every lyric just screams raw, unfiltered passion, and it's a blast to listen to. In a nutshell, he clearly knows what he's doing and he knows what makes a song instantly awesome. And his screams. I don't know what an ear orgasm feels like, but I think I just found out. And need I even mention that Jonathan is an absolute god on the guitar, piano, and drums? Because holy shit, I'm yet to see another person perform those instruments to the same degree as he does. Much like his voice, his instrumentals fucking ooze with energy. Every guitar solo, every piano melody, and every drum solo was like it was done with the utmost of care and precision. And his really weird sense of humor in the editing in his videos are always a very funny touch. So much personality, I love it. While Jonathan's covers of famous songs are the videos that get the most traction, I feel like his best work is easily his original music. Because these songs are where I feel like Jonathan tries his absolute best to create an absolute banger. With 2 songs having amazing messages about faking it for views and what can happen when you don't listen to opposing views, which really hit me on a personal level. It's great stuff. So if you want to hear the amazing original songs, my favorites are Honeymoon, Echo Chamber, and Bass, and if you just want to hear some great covers of classic songs, give This Is Halloween, Eye of the Tiger, and my all-time favorite interpretation of the Skyrim theme, Dragonborn, a listen. I've listened to nearly all of Jonathan's songs multiple times each, and I am not going to get tired of his talent anytime soon. Antti Martikinen. This man doesn't just make music. This man makes adventures in musical form. Every time I have one of Antti's songs playing through my headphones, I get transported to new worlds, each adventure being more grand and more epic than the last. And because a lot of his songs pass over the 5-minute mark, I have daydreams that are almost like mini episodes playing out in my mind, and I cannot get enough of it. The songs themselves have so much atmosphere to them, with natural sounds playing intertwined with the music, the instruments having a very natural tone to them, and the electric guitar and drums making these songs some of my favorite songs I've ever heard, period. There are so many songs that I could recommend, but to keep with the trend of this list, my 3 suggestions are Wild Iron, Kalevala, and my all-time favorite song, Lords of Iron. It's 9 minutes of pure adventure, and I won't be removing Antti from my #1 spot for a long time. Twitter may be a place where a lot of juicy drama goes down, but it's also home to artists with so much talent that it shocks me that some of them don't have an artistic job. Choosing only 5 artists was a pretty difficult task because I follow so many, but I think I'm confident in my final picks. Eka. Sonic will haunt me till the day I die, so I decided to put this particular Sonic artist at number 5. Because 1, I really enjoy the stuff she puts out, and 2, is an artist who I actually had the pleasure of doing a collaboration with, which you can watch later. What makes me love Eka's art is the way she makes her style resemble the Sonic style, but change it enough to a point where you know that it was her that drew it, which is a really hard thing to do, and it makes me appreciate her art all the more. Not to mention her designs of Real C's are very creative, while also looking like they could fit in the Sonic universe very well. Look at that boy. Damn. Her expressions are great, her shading is simple but effective, her different styles are very eye-catching, and she can make even Infinite into a cute boy. That alone, mad respect. Scruffy Turtles. Turtles is that one artist that if you see her stuff on your feed, you instantly recognize the art style as being hers, which is one of the few reasons I really like this artist, in addition to her art being some of the most lively art I've ever had the pleasure of looking at. Not only is her posing very top-notch and fluid, but her expressions are filled with personality, and each character is very refined and just ooze with, well, character. These are just a few examples, but believe me when I say that all of her artwork is like this, and god, I love the style to death. And her line art, god damn is it clean! This shit is so silky smooth. Oh boy! Look at the weight, look at the flow, this stuff is fucking great! And to top off her already amazing art, her coloring is phenomenal, using very warm tones and saturated colors to make all her pieces very lovely on the eyes. She has very admirable skill, and she has a talent that should be experienced by everyone. Great work all around. Omega Black. Scary art is my fucking drug, and if it has some creepy text above it, whew, fucking dig it. And Omega does both of those things and then some. This man is so talented at horror. These pieces have to be some of the most vile and sickening works of art I've ever seen, and I mean that in the best of regards. He knows pretty much everything on what makes something scary, making every single piece he posts a marvel to look at. Just, this is the good shit. His use of effects give the art much more creepy vibes and have a lovely scare factor to them. His various art styles are all beautifully refined, from the bright anime style to the deep and dark realism. His anatomy is beyond superb and his forms are fantastically realistic. His use of lighting and shadows make the pieces look far more visually pleasing and does great at packing in much more details. And the themes of his art are both disturbing but also very interesting. The thing that makes you not want to look at it deeper, but because it looks so real, you can't look away. And his animations are really fluid and fucking gorgeous to watch. This man is extremely talented at the art of horror and he deserves all the followers, so give him the follow if you like his stuff. Ab. If you guys have ever been or are still in school, there's a very high chance that you know or knew somebody who was a god with a pen. These people were so good that using a pencil seemed to be a complete waste of time, and it ends up in them drawing something that has so much more texture that you just can't help but be completely amazed that they drew it without a guideline. That analogy is the perfect way I would describe Ab's art. Every single one of their pieces feels like those drawings you would see from that kid, and their art is fucking gorgeous. The scratchy style of each drawing allows them to give the drawings way more life than they could if the line art was clean, while also allowing for much greater detail with less concentration. The areas of black give the drawings way more weight and make the monsters look a lot scarier. The use of simple flat colors are an amazing contrast to the extreme use of black and grey used in the characters, and the expression Ab draws in every piece are amazingly well done. You look at these drawings and you can just hear the sounds and roars of these creatures. It's amazing stuff. Also, have you seen the comics this lad draws? Because holy shit, this stuff is just fucking beautiful. The detail on every panel, the perspective, the action, everything looks like they should be in an official comic. Ab's art style is a style that makes every single drawing look different, even if they're drawing the same thing over and over, and for that, I have a deep admiration for this guy's talent. Keep up the amazing work. Wolf Skull Jack. Skull's art, much like Ab's, reminds me of those really talented pen artists. But what puts Skull over Ab in my opinion are the things that Skull draws and the fact that her line art is so fucking clean. Everything from wolves to skulls to even full skeletons of different animals looks very comic book like, while also looking borderline realistic because of all the incredible detail in each of her drawings. Every single line enhances the art, and there isn't one that doesn't feel like it doesn't belong. She knows exactly where to crosshatch, where to leave it, or to add areas of black, giving her art that beautiful texture. All of this is absolutely phenomenal. Skull is an absolute master at her craft, and it makes me happy knowing she's able to do what she loves as a job, because she 100% deserves it. And I'm greatly looking forward to seeing what her next artistic masterpiece will be. YouTube has been recommending me way more talented content creators, and it's been great seeing new types of personalities and styles splashing all over this website, despite the algorithm saying otherwise. As much as I would love to make the list longer, I need to stick to my formula and tell you my top 5. This was easily the hardest one.
A person add any value to the people around you? Would God be proud of what we've become? And of course, today's biggest question: how the fuck did New Moon gross $700 million?
Crimson Rogue. Rogue's content just screams homemade to me. And I don't mean that as an insult, I use that word because it shows a lot of what Rogue's channel is. A book reviewer with a job that makes content for fun rather than full time and doesn't have the most expensive equipment in the world. But despite the limitations, Rogue's content still manages to be very enjoyable. Because he's a writer, he's very good at explaining his stances on why he thinks a book is good or bad and can point out a lot of things a casual reader wouldn't notice. And the way he explains those points is in a language that's really easy to understand, and I was able to follow without even reading 3/4 of the books he talks about. If I can watch a video about a film and a book I've never heard of and still get a lot of enjoyment out of it, that just really shows how great the content is. His The Book is Better series is without a doubt the highlight of his channel in my eyes. Now some may criticize Rogue's limited editing and some of the comedic timing, but in my opinion I think that adds a lot more charm to his reviews. The limited editing shows that anybody can do it. Anybody can still make great content if they're fun to listen to, and Rogue ticks that box very well. Because from what I've seen from Rogue, despite his comedic timing being a little off, he's still really funny, and a lot of his jokes are well made and land pretty well. Also, his cats are fucking adorable, that makes his content objectively better. So to see what his content is like, I'd recommend you watch his comparison of Percy Jackson: The Sea of Monsters between the book and the film, his reviews of the 4 Meg books, and the hefty 1-hour reviews of Onision's books if you have extra time. This guy's content feels very personal to me. And for that, I really love his work.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this Fan Art Friday video. This week I decided to attempt an art challenge within this video.
Lethal Chris Drawing. This guy is a god in human form. There are 3 types of artists in this world. Those who can do realism but not anime because they're not degenerates, those who can do anime but not realism because they made the wrong choice in life, and those rare ones that can do both because they made the right choices and didn't touch too much degeneracy. Take a wild guess on what I am. And Chris, without any doubt, is one of the rare ones. Every single piece Chris draws oozes with detail, from the sketch to the line work all the way to the coloring and the finishing touches. Usually I'm not a massive fan of speed art videos, but Chris made the right choice by talking over the footage, and that's my favorite part. Not only is Chris's voice perfect for this kind of content as it's extremely soothing to listen to, but his voice radiates pure passion in every video. And sometimes I just watch his content just to hear that voice talk about everything he did in the span of 5 to 9 hours to get myself passionate about art. If this guy taught art, I'd pay for his classes in a heartbeat. Teach me your ways to get out of this anime bullshit! I honestly can't recommend individual videos for this channel. Just go find him and watch a few of his stuff. He has the power to make me pick up a pencil, and I love him for that.
Destroy it, JP. It's an overused archetype.
No. One villain to rule them all. Or at least one villain that requires no thought.
Terrible writing advice. Sarcasm is one of the hardest forms of comedy to get right. There are a lot of YouTubers who try to use sarcasm in their videos to make something funny, but fall flat due to the joke not being well structured or their voices as unlively as a text-to-speech bot. But Terrible Writing Advice is one of those channels that managed to get the sarcasm down to a T, and every single video is very fun to watch. The animation may be only keyframes and the main avatar does look like that one meme from 2006, but that just adds to the charm in my opinion. And the voice? Man, that voice is perfect for this style of humor and it never comes off as annoying, which is really fucking good. But in the most ironic sense, Terrible Writing Advice, a channel that's not meant to be taken seriously, actually provides some very good writing advice if you listen carefully and pick them out. That and just do the opposite of nearly everything he says. It's really clever attention to the writing. No pun intended. Every single video is worth your time, but 3 videos that stuck to me were Grimdark, Writer's Block, and The Nature of Clichés. One of the only videos where he's actually serious, and in my eyes, it's easily the most insightful video.
So Wukong's like, Kuan Yin, how's it going, girl? Great to see you. It's been really lonely for the past 500 years, you know? Nobody ever comes by to visit.
Overly sarcastic productions. These guys are literally the embodiment of that one teacher that everyone likes. That teacher that can make history interesting, because it is. That teacher who everyone is able to understand without sounding like they're talking down to you. That teacher who actually makes you think that school isn't that bad. The characters of Red and Blue are amazing contrast to each other, with Blue focusing a lot on history and being very detailed, while Red is more into creative writing and more to the point. It's 2 styles of content that both do their job amazingly, and I end up learning a lot about Greek legends and writing tropes by the time I'm done. And holy shit, I absolutely love the presentation. The drawings are simple, fluid, action-packed, beautifully colored, and make the experience of learning the stuff they talk about so much more effective. I love the art style so much that it actually influenced my art style in more ways than one. It's just that good. These guys have hundreds of videos, but 3 that I found to be particularly enjoyable were H.P. Lovecraft, Writing Tropes, Mary Sue, and the ongoing videos on Journey to the West. These guys make very fun, easy to digest content, and their videos just get consistently better.
Everyone is afraid of something. Spiders, tall heights, clowns, getting yiffed.
The Word of Wolf. This channel. Holy shit, this channel. This is a channel that I find to be very special, because it's a channel that I usually wouldn't enjoy or stop watching after a few videos. I don't enjoy the idea of just talking about a film's quality objectively, because I feel like the concept makes movie discussion kind of boring, which is why I mostly prefer subjectivity to a certain extent. And I even disagree with a lot of his views on movies like Black Panther and Infinity War. However, despite all of this channel resonated with me. Wolf's content was not only insightful, educational, and in my personal opinion, very funny, but it changed so many of my views towards media criticism. I now know that something can be objectively bad, but I can still enjoy it. I know that being negative isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as the negativity is entertaining and has weight behind it. I now know that videos can be longer than 20 minutes and still be engaging. You want to know why my scripts got longer? You want to know why I'm more serious towards media criticism now? You want to know why my content has gotten so much better? It's because of this channel. I know that sounds very cringy, but I really mean it. Wolf has been my main inspiration to make more quality content. I want to make videos that are just as insightful as his. I want to reach a point where my videos can be like this with just better editing. Because let's face it, the editing isn't Wolf's strongest attribute. He has inspired me in more ways than one, and I have a lot of respect for him. And he's the channel I go to watch not only to see what I can implement into my own content, but to also see another point of view that I'm not used to. Hell, he's the fucking reason why I even made my first Things I Love video. That's how much this guy has inspired me. And with all that being said, the 3 videos that I would recommend you to check out immediately are Understanding Depression, Things I Don't Hate, and How Bad Writing Can Make Great Writers. Wolf's an amazing analytical channel, and I always look forward to the next video he puts out. And with that, there you go. That's all the new things I love, and I have to say, this has been my favorite video I've written so far. What you heard for the past hour was 4 months of adding onto this script and multiple drafts to make this video as perfect as it could possibly be, and I really hope the wait was worth it. I don't think I'm gonna be topping this video anytime soon, I'll tell you that. I did this before in my last video, and obviously the people who I asked don't have to do this, but I would like to challenge a few people to make a video of things they love. Those people being Virtus Joe, Shadow759, LS Mark, and Cine Animations. You guys make very quality content, and I think you could be pretty good at this sort of thing. Also, you can use this challenge to make a video if you're running out of creative ideas, so if you do it, you're welcome in advance. And at last, I really need to thank you all for getting me to 5,000 subscribers. That goal has been a dream of mine ever since the beginning, and it's still shocking to see that many people subscribe to this channel. I know I don't really show it in my videos, but you guys really inspire me to be the best person I can be. I love the people who give me kind words, the people who go out of their way to criticize me in hopes of me getting better, and the people who gave me moral support during my temporary identity crisis. You guys have made my world all the brighter, and your support means so much to me. From the bottom of my still beating heart, thank you for everything. My name is Manga Artist, and thank you for watching.